What is the first thing a person does when they stop loving you? It's not always slamming doors, shouting, or asking for space. Often, it happens much quieter, almost unnoticed at first. If you don't pay attention, you can miss the first signs, moments when their heart begins to drift away. Words and habits may stay the same, masking the internal changes. This video is not about drama, accusations, or guesses. It's about clarity and understanding what happens when love fades, leaving subtle traces of change in behavior. Emotional distance and restrained connection tell the true story, even when words are silent. These signs speak deeper than any accusations or arguments. In this video, we will look at 5 signs, subtle but significant, that appear first when love leaves. They are based on real emotional patterns in long-term relationships. By the end of the video, you will have a clear understanding of what really matters and how you can move forward. Stay until the end. It will help change your perception of relationships. One of these signs often goes unnoticed, but it can completely change your understanding and attitude toward your partner. You deserve honesty from others and from yourself. Love, when it begins to fade, almost always shows itself quietly. The first sign is the loss of curiosity about the life and world of the other person. One of the first signs that someone has stopped loving is the loss of interest. They no longer ask about your affairs and life. They used to ask, "How was your doctor's visit?" Or, "How have you been sleeping lately?" Now, they barely listen. They don't ask clarifying questions. They aren't interested in the small stories that used to make up your daily communication. This is not just busyness. This is emotional alienation. Let me tell you about Edna and Paul, who were married for almost 40 years and gradually drifted apart. Edna used to talk about everything: the blooming roses, the neighbor's dog, arguments in the book club. Paul listened and kept the conversation going. Over time, this changed. She spoke, and he watched TV, responded with grunts, or stayed silent. Edna felt this alienation before she could fully realize it. A heavy silence arose between them, a lack of words and interest. When someone loves you, they show lively interest, ask questions, listen attentively, and care about your feelings and world. People strive to understand your world. They want to know everything about you, even the smallest details. They remember your doctor visits and what upset you in the morning. When this care disappears, they begin to emotionally withdraw. It's not anger, but silence and emotional emptiness that leaves a feeling of loneliness, even if you are together. People stop asking not because you became boring, but because they lost emotional involvement. You become background, not the center of their life. It sounds harsh, but if you feel your voice is not heard, it's worth asking. When did they stop caring about me, and why didn't I notice earlier? When someone stops loving, they don't always say it, but show it by not asking questions and lacking the desire to listen to you. The second sign is a decrease in tolerance. When love fades, tolerance becomes the first victim. What used to be funny now irritates. You might tell a familiar story or ask a simple question, and instead of a smile or understanding, you get an irritated reaction. A sigh, a sharp tone, or a cold look say, "Why are you bothering me?" What once felt like understanding now feels like walking on eggshells. Think about Ahelen, 76 years old, who has always been a bit forgetful and remains so. Her husband Richard used to good-naturedly tease her. Richard helped her find her glasses, or reminded her for the 5th time where she left the phone. It was part of their shared rhythm and care for each other. But everything changed. Suddenly, Richard started snapping at Ahelen, muttering under his breath and rolling his eyes, showing irritation and impatience. One day, when Ahelen asked for help with online banking, Richard replied, "You have to figure it out yourself." This was very different from his previous attitude. Helen didn't forget that moment. It wasn't dramatic, but sharply different from how he had been before in their relationship. When a person is in love, they show tolerance, know habits and weaknesses, handle them carefully, showing love and understanding. But when love leaves, even small requests seem like demands, and tolerance turns into resistance. It's a subtle but powerful change. Where there was once understanding, now there is resistance. It's not because someone did something wrong, but because people emotionally distance themselves. Tolerance often becomes the first thread to break. You start to doubt and feel the relationship changing, losing its former closeness. Inside, you think, I need too much, I ask for too much. But the point is not about reducing your needs, but about their willingness to support you changing. Their emotional involvement decreases. You can hear it in the tone of voice, in how they interrupt, in the eyes that roll, and in the silence after a simple question. Don't ignore these changes. It's not just a bad mood or stress. It may mean their heart is no longer where it used to be. If you feel like a burden rather than a partner, it's important to acknowledge it. This is not something to ignore or dismiss. Sign 3. Lack of shared time. When love leaves, the time spent together that truly matters and is valuable disappears. Not just hours or days, but time that feels meaningful and chosen. They stop planning with you, not because of busyness, but because of unwillingness. They used to sit together, watch favorite shows, or go out to the porch in the evening. Now they stay in different rooms, growing apart. Often they leave the house without asking if you want to go. And when they stay, their body is here, but their attention is not. Think of a person as someone who was close before but is now drifting away, losing interest and connection with you. Ray, 68 years old, loved his morning routine with his wife Linda. They drank coffee together at the kitchen table, discussing the weather, the news, or simply sitting in silence. For them, it didn't matter what they talked about. The main thing was to be near each other. But over time, everything began to change. Linda started waking up earlier and going on long walks alone. The coffee was brewed, and the table was empty. She said she needed time for herself. To increase distance, a big quarrel or drama is not needed. Silent decisions and disengagement from each other's lives are enough. Mornings spent apart become too frequent. Dinners alone, nights when your partner's back is turned to you, speak of growing distance in the relationship. If you feel left behind in your shared relationship, do not ignore this feeling. Time does not shorten, it leaves, and silence becomes louder than words. The fourth sign is emotional restraint. When someone stops letting you into not only their day but also their inner world, the relationship begins to break down. Before, you heard concerns, hopes, thoughts about life and family, but now you see a mask and superficial answers. Everything is fine, or don't worry. You feel that something has changed, is hidden behind closed doors, and the scariest thing is that you are no longer their safe place. Let's consider the example of Gloria, 71 years old. Her partner Samuel had always been open, sharing fears and thoughts, especially before knee surgery. He even called her his best friend, but much has changed over the past year. When his cousin died, Gloria found out only after some time. A week after she asked him why he hadn't told her, he replied, "I didn't want to burden you." But she understood the reason was different. It was easier for him to go through everything alone than to let her into his world. Such a change does not happen overnight. It grows gradually. When someone stops loving, they begin to close emotional doors. Conversations continue, but no longer about important and real things. You start to feel like a neighbor, not a partner. Big decisions are made without your involvement, and intimacy gradually disappears. Thoughts once shared over dinner are now kept in their head. You don't realize what's missing until the distance becomes tangible. People don't just stop talking. They stop trusting you with their truth. It's more painful than silence because it means you're no longer the one they can open up to. They may be kind, wash the dishes, and sit next to you in church, but the warmth and closeness are gone. It's an emptiness that's hard to fill. When you try to reconnect and ask what happened, they withdraw. Sometimes without anger, but with a detachment that hurts more than words. Withdrawing, they seem to close themselves off, unwilling to share their feelings. This alienation gradually destroys the relationship. The realization that love is fading comes gradually, with every closed heart and every unspoken word. People often say, "I'm just tired," or "you won't understand," hiding the truth. I've turned inward and started disconnecting from the world. The fifth sign is physical distancing. When emotional closeness fades, the body follows, reducing hugs, eye contact, and touch. No touches on the hand or kisses on the forehead without reason. Instead of closeness, just two people sharing space but not connection. For many couples, physical intimacy is a place of unspoken love. When it disappears, there is a feeling that love has physically retreated. Let's remember Martin and Alice, married for 45 years. Their life was filled with tenderness and warmth, holding hands and caring for each other. Martin always kissed Alice goodnight, but after retiring, he became quieter, more distant, and turned his back in bed. He refused her hand when she tried to place it on his knee by the TV and stopped initiating touches. Gradually, Alice also stopped reaching out to him, not because of lack of love, but because she didn't know where her place was now. Physical touch is a special language. It says, "I am here, I care, I still choose you," conveying feelings without words or explanations. When love fades, this language falls silent. People stop touching you, avoid closeness, withdraw without words, losing that tenderness and warmth. They don't take your hand in public, flinch when you try to kiss them. These are small signs, but they painfully wound the soul. The longer this goes on, the deeper the gap between you. It's not just about passion or romance, but about presence and confidence in love. The feeling that you are still wanted, even in silence, disappears. Then doubts begin, thoughts that you might have done something wrong. But often the reason lies with them, in how they stopped feeling attraction to you emotionally and physically, regardless of your actions. If you notice the room gets cold when they enter, or hugs seem just a formality, it's a troubling sign. When someone stops loving, the body knows it and starts distancing you step by step, showing the truth without words. Think about these signs in a quiet moment. Realize that love doesn't always die suddenly. Sometimes it slowly fades away, leaving emptiness. Perhaps one of these moments stood out to you especially. Or maybe all of them at once. It's important not only to recognize the signs, but also to understand their meaning personally for you. When love begins to fade, we often feel it intuitively, even before words or actions confirm it. Nevertheless, we doubt our feelings. We tend to downplay the importance of our emotions, telling ourselves not to worry. But the truth is that emotional distance always leaves traces through silence and avoidance. If you notice this shift in the relationship and doubt whether your feelings are real, most likely they truly exist. You are not imagining your sensations. You feel the difference between being chosen and merely tolerated. It's important not to ignore this, but to explore it with honesty and compassion for yourself and the relationship. This does not mean that all love has disappeared, or that everything cannot be fixed. But the first step is to see what is happening clearly and directly, without self-deception. When you recognize such patterns, you can stop blaming yourself and carrying the burden of one-sided connection. Start asking yourself the right questions. Do I feel emotionally safe? Am I treated with care? Do I still feel my importance? These questions will help you understand your true feelings. Remember that your peace is just as important as the comfort of those around you. Acknowledging the fading of love is sometimes painful, but pretending is worse. You deserve true love, the kind that appears, reaches out, and remains curious. It chooses you day after day without exception. Thank you for being with us today. It is very important for us to hear your opinion and experience. Please leave a comment below. Share what you learned today and how you plan to use this knowledge in your life. Your thoughts are very valuable to us. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and support to create quality content. Thank you for your engagement. If you liked the video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Your support is very important. Your support helps us continue creating informative and inspiring content. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.